Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast, hosted by Jake Bolden and presented by the Conseco Group General Contracting and Mighty Dog Roofing. Don't miss another Tuesday episode by subscribing to the podcast on all streaming platforms or catch our visual presentation uploaded every week on YouTube. Don't miss our next ticket giveaways by subscribing and following on all Blue Raider Podcast social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Blue Raider Pod. Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Bolden, and I appreciate everybody tuning into today's episode, returning back from a 2-week hiatus, a little spring break for myself here. Happy to be back with you. I got so many topics to talk about. I know a lot of questions have been arising on our boards over at Go Middle in regards to the transfer portal for basketball, so we'll be able to put a nice little bow on all things basketball for you today. We'll go over the roster shakeup, what to expect this offseason from both programs. Hopefully I can answer some of those questions that you guys might have. And of course, we'll do a little spring check-in as well with baseball, softball updates as things are really getting into the swing of Conference USA play. So I want to make sure everyone's up to date. Today's going to be a little bit of a different episode. It's going to be yours truly all day, just a little bit of a monologue for you, talking all things Blue Raider athletics. So I'm happy you have stuck around, obviously, over the break to rejoin me. But I want to go ahead and tease next week's episode where Jeff Murphy, you may know him from the Group of Five podcast, talking all things football, Group of Five talk, former MTSU Blue Raider. He will be joining the episode next week where we're going to be talking all things NIL, Raiders Rising, as he is a board member of that NIL partnership deal, out of house NIL that is. So another great resource for us to be talking to about all things NIL related to football, definitely with basketball, and now that we're kind of in the swing of those things. So hopefully lots of questions can be answered for you there. So I encourage you, if you're listening today, to tune in next Tuesday where we'll be speaking with him on all things Raiders Rising. So I'm happy to have him. But before we get into today's episode, I want to take just a second to thank our sponsors of the channel, beginning with the Conseco Group. Since 1987, the Conseco Group has been turning dreams into reality. Whether it's pre-construction consulting, construction management, design build, or renovations and improvements, we're here to exceed your expectations. At Conseco Group, we don't just deliver, we deliver with passion, precision, and unparalleled quality. Our hands-on approach ensures your investment is maximized and your vision is brought to life. From Clarksville down to Columbia and beyond, trust the Conseco Group to handle every detail with expertise and care. If you're ready to build your future, contact the Conseco Group today at 615-298-9907 or visit their website at consecogroup.com. And thank you to Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East. When it comes to your home, trust Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East for all of your needs. As a veteran and locally owned business, we're honored to be one of just 11 Owens Corning contractors nationwide to win their prestigious service award. From roofing and gutters to windows and siding, our expert team delivers top-quality craftsmanship and unmatched service. We're here to protect your home with pride and precision. Choose Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East, where excellence is a tradition. Call us today at 615-MD-ROOFS. That's ROOFS, or visit their website at mightydogroofing.com to schedule your free quote today. Once again, thank you to the Conseco Group and Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East for sponsoring our episode. Now, I know the topics that you all want to talk about is basketball, and put a nice little bow. It's been 2 weeks since the season, a week and a half since the season really came to a close. Beginning with the men, they had that heartbreaking triple overtime loss there at the Murphy Center. Really hats off to what Chattanooga was able to do, not only there in the Murphy Center, but what they've done so far. If you've kept up with the NIT since MTSU has been put out, they continue to roll. The Mocs are currently in the semifinals that's being played tonight there in Indianapolis at the Finkel Fieldhouse. They'll play Loyola Chicago at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN2. Just kind of, it's one of those, what if the Blue Raiders were able to pull that one out there in the Murphy Center, you'd like to think they'd be there at Hinkle Fieldhouse tonight. But unlike what unfolded there does not fall in our favor. It's tough. And I know a lot of you guys, and I'm going to, if you listen to this podcast enough, I understand that I am in the minority of the situation that is with basketball. But I want to take a step away from that topic quickly to say the battle and the fight that was in this team all year long. They had a lot of games that ended a lot very similar to what we saw, maybe not necessarily triple overtime, but heartbreaking nonetheless. They're in the final minutes, like we saw in the semifinals against Jacksonville State. Had an opportunity there to at least get yourself into the next round. Late game situation awareness, whether the coaching staff, whether the players. Jacksonville State, you didn't get a shot off. And then you look at Chat, you just kind of had a hand down, man down situation. Hunter Huff had himself a wide open three, a deep three, nonetheless, a 30-footer. But it's a guy that, even though he didn't have a great shooting night, he hit the one that mattered the most, and you kind of fall there. But when you want to relay it back to the coaching discussion of all things, I know a lot of you want to know what the contract looks like. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening on April 1st of 2025, and we haven't heard news that McDevitt is or is not the coach, I think it's safe to say that he is the coach. And then your question following would be, well, when was he extended? And I, unfortunately, don't work within the university. I work closely with people at the university, but I'm not privy to that information. Ultimately, a Freedom of Information Act, or a FOIA, as some may call it, you could certainly inquire, because that is public knowledge if you wanted to find those things out. However, I'm going to use the deductive reasoning here to say that if we haven't fired a coach by now, that's not going to happen. And nor am I necessarily in a great position to do so, just to be entirely honest with you, to dive that deep into finding out if a man has been fired or will be fired or any of those things, because that's just not my place. And I do think it's in poor taste to talk to other people's bosses about their current standing within their jobs. At the end of the day, this is still a man that has a job and a family, and I respect that. And ultimately, though, I'm here to cover basketball. And as we sit today, if you haven't already come to the conclusion that he's going to be the basketball coach in 25-26, that's where we're at. I think 20-win season should be commended, albeit with the roster that he threw together last offseason. To build a roster like this shouldn't go unrecognized. To be able to do that in what has been the toughest Conference USA I've seen since joining Conference USA, I think that there's a lot that you should be proud of, regardless of where your thoughts are. I think that this team was fun to watch. I think that's ultimately where I put him. This team made games exciting once again in the Murphy Sitter, and something that we haven't seen in years past. So I think, again, if I know you don't love participation trophies, you don't love losing in your fourth straight semifinal in the Conference USA tournament, but believe it or not, the people in that locker room, the administration that a lot of you are mad at, aren't happy with that either. All things considered, we move forward. Life goes on. We're going to do better this next season, as I'm sure as you are well aware of that's going to happen. So what's going to happen this next season? Well, as of now, again, the transfer portal, as the Wild West, as I've always referred to it as, continues on. We still have 3 weeks at the release of this episode. The portal does not close until April 22nd. So everything I say today doesn't necessarily mean anything, because players can still enter the portal for the next 22 days. So that still gives them 3 weeks. And we've seen in years past that players do decide to go in the portal later in this period, because it is kind of a Wild West. Teams can talk to whoever they want to talk to. So if a guy hasn't entered the portal yet, that doesn't necessarily mean he won't, but I like to think that the chances are lower, but they're not zero. So something to keep in mind as I go through this roster shakeup. The only player so far on the men's side is Justin Porter. That was actually announced prior to the portal even opening that he would be entering. A little surprised, considering that he would get an extra year of eligibility, given the blanket ruling from the NCAA after Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback, as much of us here in Middle Tennessee are aware of. And if you played JUCO seasons, those years are now wiped from your college record or credit, if you will, meaning that if you played any time in JUCO, it doesn't count towards your NCAA eligibility. So in Justin's case, he's played 3 seasons of Division I basketball for the NCAA. Therefore, he still has a 4th season remaining, despite having played seasons at Tyler Community College in Texas prior to joining the Blue Raiders. So he is going to hit the portal and search his options once more. Ultimately, I wish him the best, much like I did last offseason, and he ended up back here in Murfreesboro. So again, you can always kind of hold on to that breath that there is potential that this guy in particular does return to you. But sometimes I would say it's always better to just pretend that it's not coming back, because that's exactly what happened last year. JP decided to come back at the very last minute when we had a scholarship available. If that happens again, obviously I'm always open to it, but that is a big loss to the Blue Raiders without it being said. All CUSA second teamer 2 years in a row. That one's going to hurt. But as I talk about the returning talent, and I know, again, this is one of those areas that a lot of us have questions about, and I already touched on it there for a bit, is the JUCO years being deemed technically, they don't count. They don't count with the blanket ruling from the NCAA. I'm referring back to the Diego Pavia ruling. So for all sports, to my understanding, junior college years do not count towards their play-in 5 4 seasons. So they have 4 seasons to complete in Division I sports over 5 academic seasons. So all these players that I'm going to name have fit that criteria. They still haven't played 4 seasons in 5 Division I years. So Jalen Counter, Cam Weston, Alec Oglesby, those 3 in particular, those 3 haven't done so. Alec is definitely a different situation, so I'll put a pin in him. But Jalen and Cam Weston both have the opportunity to come back for one more season. Now, they will have to appeal. My understanding is that they still have to appeal for these types of things, even though there was a blanket ruling. But Jalen Counter only played 2 seasons at IUPUI, 1 at MTSU. Therefore, he would still have a 4th year here. If he so desired, could also still enter the portal. Cam Weston in the exact same boat, because he was granted that redshirt season last year. Those games don't count against his record. My understanding is that he could, in theory, return once more if he so desired. I think there may have to be an appeal in there because he's already appealed for that redshirt year. So there is, I don't know, again, what the NCAA does. They tend to hand out eligibility like it's candy. So he may get lucky and have that another year here at MTSU. Or again, if he gets granted that extra year, he has the right to enter the transfer portal. Alec is different because he doesn't have any junior college experience. He played all of it in Division I, but he had a medical redshirt potentially going into this year. However, he played 2 games. So I don't know how that affects his ability to get another season if they already, because typically the rule is you can't play at all. It's not like football where you can play 4 games and still, collect a red shirt at the end of the year. Basketball, if you play at all, you lose your ability to redshirt. So I do not know where Alex stands. I would assume only playing two games this year, a guy that has started almost all of his Division I career when he's healthy, I would think that he would like to apply and play that final season to its fullest after hopefully a full off season of getting that arm back to full health. And we kind of see what Alec Oglesby brings to the team, which in the grand scheme of things, if you don't return Justin Porter, having that 3-point shooting presence that we know Alec Oglesby is, he is a 40% 3-point shooter over his career. But how good is he after the arm injury? That's obviously to be seen. So obviously I hope the best for him and whatever he decides to do with his career, but I certainly would love to see what he could do in the blue and white with a full healthy season, a good off season where he's able to get complete health and kind of slide into that role that is the 2-3 spot. Obviously a lengthier Justin Porter, but still has that 3-point ability that we're missing with Porter entering the portal. Other players that eligibility is not really necessarily the criteria that's keeping them on the team. They're here because they have more than enough years available. Jared Hall, the Tulsa transfer from this last off season from Lebanon High School. Torrey Alston, as we all know, the starting power forward. Trey Green, Chris Loof, and then Kamari Lands. Those 5 guys have eligibility remaining. There's no real hiccups. They are coming back to play college basketball next season. Again, 3 weeks still remaining. One of these names that I do think I was surprised to have not already seen in the portal was Kamari Lands. Kamari Lands, a guy that spent in high school, went to 4 different high schools over 4 years. He's done the same in college, starting out at Louisville, Arizona State, here at MTSU. He fit in well with these guys. Obviously, the chemistry was there. As Esam said in his post-game presser after their final game against Jacksonville State, this is kind of the first place he's ever been where practice was fun. And I would like to think all these guys had that same experience. So maybe the chemistry was enough to keep Kamari Lands here, but obviously I would love to have him back again. Another guy that missed all of just about the Conference USA season. So you'd love to return him and plug him right back into the 4 spot. But definitely a guy, in my opinion, that I would keep an eye on in these next couple of weeks as potentially entering the portal. incoming high school, junior college. You have two signees. You have Charvez Ambrose from Walter State Community College. Looking into him, a lengthy wing, had a double-digit scoring average this year for the Senators at Walter State. Very good basketball program for the record. Look forward to him. Doesn't come across as a guy that may see playing time immediately just because of where the starting guards are at. But by all means, some guys kind of come in and shine right out of junior college. And then you have Jax Howard, who's the high school signee point guard from Webb in Bell Buckle. Another guy who, again, I don't necessarily see getting playing time, especially as a point guard, be undersized, and the amount of depth you already have at the point guard position this upcoming season with Jalen Counter and Cam Weston. So as of now, that leaves your roster with 10 scholarship players, with Porter leaving, and you're graduating Christian Fussell, Jacob Johnson, and Isam Mustafa. So you need to fill those final roster positions. When I look at what the team needs, really, you need depth everywhere. You feel pretty good as of April 1st with where you are at the point guard position with Counter and Weston. Even with your 2 spot, you've got Trey Green, you've got Alec Oglesby. You have some options there. Again, Charvez Ambrose may be a guy that you fit in there. Then when you come down to the 4 and 5s, you have Loof, you have Lands, you have Alston. Jared Hall's another guy who could probably see a little bit more time in the rotation. But ultimately, you've got to replace an Isam Mustafa. We lost Jared Coleman-Jones 2 seasons ago. You replaced him with Mustafa. Now you've got to find that next big. Chris Loof could very well potentially be that guy, but he doesn't necessarily fit the archetype of the center forward flex player, if you will, that we've seen in Nick McDevitt's system. And I draw that to like the DeAndre Dishmans, as I just mentioned, JCJ, and then Isam Mustafa. So, Chris could potentially be that guy. Obviously, he can shoot the ball well from all 3 levels. We've seen the improved shooting from 3 this year. But I still think you're going to want depth at that position. So I would anticipate a lot of emphasis, at least in the portal, down low in the front court at the 4 and 5. You might pick up a depth piece at the guard position, specifically, I would say a small forward to a shooting guard, kind of a lengthier wing, more athletic, like we've seen in Nick McDevitt's teams in the past. But obviously, they have a lot of wiggle room and guys that they can get this offseason. And 2, when these guys appeal for that extra season, things may shuffle out, because if you don't return Counter, Weston, or Oglesby, you have no point guard on roster besides the incoming freshman from Webb, Jax Howard. So, and Trey Green, who did play some point guard as well in high school, but obviously point guard is going to be a very big emphasis if what I'm saying does not come true. And I should probably have prefaced by saying I don't know that all of this stuff would come true. So something to keep eyes on over this offseason, but the portal season is exciting. I look forward to seeing what this team decides to pull together, because last offseason was impressive. At first, some of the names didn't come across as big gets, but Jalen Counter turned out to be more than what we bargained for. Isam Mustafa was everything we thought he would be. And Kamari Lands, too, for that matter, someone who doesn't really get enough credit because he missed the back half of the season, but another guy that had a big effect. So you hope that you can get some more pickups in the portal this next year to continue the 20-win stretch that we've had. We've won 80 games over the last 4 years. The program, all things considered, is in a good place. You just want to continue that forward trajectory. And I think I speak for everyone, the level of transparency within the department. A lot of us want to know the situation, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. We would like to just know the situation. By all means, don't leave us in the dark. This time last year, we got a message from athletic director Massaro saying McDevitt is going to be the coach this next year. They're going to be behind him 100% of the way. And I still personally believe that they should be, but we shouldn't be in the dark on that. I do think I agree with everyone that something should be said, and we should not blindly going into this next season unknowing of what the situation is.
Did you know the Blue Raider podcast has an online store? You can now support your favorite podcast by checking out our selection at our website, blueraiderpodcast.com. And stay tuned for new merchandise releases as we collaborate with athletes in NIL partnerships.
But I digress. Women's basketball. This is kind of a topic that I am more privy to, or I should say I've always love the women's game. Obviously, I respect Insel and what they do, and I keep up with the women's game a lot more than I do the men's game behind the scenes, just because of the program success. It's great. I think that this program is headed in the right direction. I know that there's a lot of tension growing about, can this program continue the run that they've been on? Well, if you've been a fan of this program for longer than 2 years, you know that they have this continuity consistently, even though the roster turnover may not be there. And this is going to be a tough offseason. Don't let me pretend that it's not. This is going to be a tough offseason. There's going to be a lot of questions going into that first week there in late October, early November. But I think I can trust Rick Insel with what he's doing with Matt Insel as well and that coaching staff. I think I have a few good reasons as to why I can trust what they're doing is the right thing. But their season ended. Curb Event Center, unfortunately, lost there for the second time this year. Belmont's got a good basketball team, and ultimately they exposed what this team isn't very good at this year, and that was scoring the basketball. Defensively, this team is very good, one of the best that Rick Insel has ever coached in his history at MTSU. But offensively, one of the worst that he's had. So unfortunately, that was the downfall against good teams that can score the basketball. You were able to overcome that against Western Kentucky twice this year, but Liberty got the better of you twice, and then Belmont got the better of you twice to end that postseason run as well. Their situation in the transfer portal, Tamia Scott was the big news, and then Miyoshi Mason also entered on the same day when the portal opened. Big loss, very similar to the men's situation. You lose your leading scorer, the lone big senior you're going to have this next year. She was supposed to be the anchor going into this next year. Surprised a lot of us. Surprised me. Someone who we've had on the show numerous times. I wish her nothing but the best. Obviously, she's a great person off the floor. Very talented. More things than just basketball as well. So I wish her nothing but the best. Obviously, if the door's open, I'm sure the staff would love to have her back, but the scholarship situation is very tight on the Lady Raider side of things. You only get 15 scholarships in women's basketball. You lose Scott and Mason. You're going to be returning 7 players. You've signed 6 high school players, and you graduated 5. So I'll solve the math for you there. That only leaves 1 scholarship available. You have to fill that 1 scholarship, even though you're losing 2 players to the portal. How do you do that? I do not know. They're going to have to do some level of scholarship gymnastics here that they'll have to figure out for themselves. So I don't have the answer, but I do know that they're shopping. Matt did tweet on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, that the portal's open and we're ready. The Lady Raiders are ready to find the next Lady Raider. So with Mason leaving and Scott leaving, your returners are Gracie Dodgen, Dora Van Reese, Emily Monson, Gracie Hamby, Savannah Davis, Anna Milanovic, Stacy Kaepernick, and Jada Harrison. So you've got 7 returners. Of those 7, you only have 1 that has a good amount of playing experience in Savannah Davis, who we saw really explode onto the scene in conference season, especially late, her big heroics there in the semifinals against Western Kentucky. So look forward to having her back. And some of these names I expect to have big off seasons and maybe be in contention to start next year. Stacy was one that they were really happy with this last year. Of these players outside of Davis and Harrison, she has the most playing time of any of these girls that were on the bench last year. And she played the 5 in situations where Granum and Boldereva were off the floor. So you may already have some potential starting five spot next year with Stacy. Anna Milanovic is another one that saw some playing time at the 5 spot. She is also of the size that you could put her at the 4. I don't know where their head is at with those 2 in particular, but Stacy is definitely more of the 5, has a shooting ability at all 3 levels, much like Boldereva does, and then Milanovic has good length. So I look forward to her getting another offseason in a college strength and conditioning program, put some size on her, make her a little bit more of fit to play at this level. Emily Monson, a girl that played some time at the 4 spot as well. Wanted to see the defensive effort pick up for her to get more playing time. She had some more playing time down the stretch. Scoring ability is there, much like we saw at Blackman High School. And if you have limited tape on her from Purdue, she shoots the 3 very well from that short corner. So another player that is contending for that playing time there at the 4 or 5 spot. Your incoming high school signees, in no particular order, you have Jenna McClendon, Macy Pfeiffer, Blair Bogus, Kirsten Verholst, Carson Swaney, and the 6'10 from Spain, Nicole Dominguez. A great class. Really, they've all shined in their own way. Nicole Dominguez, as I touched on, 6'10". A lot of us think that she's going to fill in that Boulder spot, and maybe she does. But one thing that does scare me is being 6'10". That size doesn't necessarily get up and down the floor very well. She comes from a system that is 5 out, and she has to run the floor a lot. So you hope that stamina is there. But especially in the Rick Insell system of it all, where you typically require your player to play 30, 35 minutes a night, that size worries me. So I don't know that she would be the starting 5 as of today on April 1st. But, crazier things have happened. Jenna McClendon, on the other hand, 6'4", she has this energy and spunk about her that is electric. Reminds me a lot of Courtney Whitson, a girl that gets up and down the floor. When I say energy, she's got a lot of it. She is a rebounder. She's a shot blocker. She can score. She's does most of her damage down low in the post, but she's very quick down low. Again, I like her game a lot. Especially, I'm really excited to see what she does in the defensive style that we like to coach here in Murfreesboro, because I think she fits very well to that. She is very sold out to being a good defender, being a good rebounder, and at 6'4" as a freshman, coming off of an ACL surgery at the end of her junior year, I look forward to seeing what she can do this upcoming season. And again, potentially could be vying there with Stacy, Anna, and Nicole for some playing time at the 5 spot. Macy Pfeiffer, Blair Bogus, those are your 3-4s, power forwards, small forwards, however you want to look at them. They're not small by any stretch, in my opinion, but Macy Pfeiffer, 6'1". Blair, I believe, is also around that 6'1", 6-foot mark. It's very talented scorers. They do it all. Macy particularly does it all on both ends of the floor. These two are all-stars, both Miss Basketball in their respective states, Macy in Mississippi, Blair here in Tennessee out of Wayne County. Carson Swaney, the guard out of Heritage High School out in East Tennessee and Maryville, a very talented scorer, nearly 20 points a game. She can shoot it at all levels, and can create her own shot. She gets downhill, can get to the rim, can shoot it off the dribble, shoot it off the pass. Excited to see what she does. She's kind of that shooter style that we see here at MTSU from these small schools, as Matt would like to call it. And Kirsten Verholst is another talented point guard. Her older sister, actually plays at Oklahoma, their second leading scorer for the Sooners. So obviously basketball runs deep in the Verholst blood. So if she's any type of player that her older sister is, that's a girl that I would keep eyes on as being a potential starting point guard for this upcoming season. But that does lead me to where do the Lady Raiders go now that the portal season's over? This is kind of your roster situation. You've got 7 returners, 6 in high school, so that leaves you with 13. So actually, I guess my math was wrong. You've got 2 scholarship spots to play with. You've got Granum, Arike, Gregory, Bouldereva, Blakely. They're all graduating. That's 4 of your starting 5. So you've got obviously a lot of shoes to fill, a lot of experience to fill. I think it goes without saying you need to replace them all. That would be the easy answer. But I think on the bench, you kind of already have some level of experience that you would feel comfortable with playing come November with Savannah Davis in particular. You know what you have down low with Stacy and Anna. Obviously, Nicole and Jenna, you feel good about that. But I don't think you want to start. You don't feel comfortable starting either of them, any 4 of them, come November. So I would like to think you're going to put a lot of energy and effort into finding someone who's in that 6'4", 6'3" range that can play the forward center position. That's a great rebounder. You would like them to score. That was kind of the downfall of the Arike pickup. She was excellent on defense. I mean, she was a Conference USA Defender of the Year 2 years ago for good reason. So she gave you that, but she didn't give you the scoring touch that you thought that she would. Didn't shoot the ball as well as we thought she would either. So I think if you're going to replace that position in particular, you need someone who is reliable on the scoring side of things. So If you follow us on gomiddle.com, I do have a board together of transfer portal pickups for the Lady Raiders that I've kept an eye on, names that I really like. That I think the staff would be going after. Again, I don't have any insight like that to tell you for certain that this is who they are or not going after, but those are some names that I do feel comfortable that these are probably players that would get some looks from the Lady Raiders. And luckily for us, we're in a situation that we're a top mid-major program. We could very easily pull girls from Power 4 schools that decide they don't want to play there anymore. Alina Enrique was one of them. Courtney Blakely was one of them. Emily Monson, another one. So you have that kind of pool with some of these P4 talents that you may not think if you were anyone else, you have no shot at. But the Lady Raiders certainly do. And obviously, when you bring it to the discussion of NIL, this is a program that is very well funded. So all things considered, I think they can get together a good center and a good point guard, leading me to my next topic. They're going to need a good point guard that can handle the basketball. Savannah Davis has point guard potential because she did it in high school, but going into her senior year, she did play a little bit more shooting guard because they had to find a way to get her to the ball. Is her ball handling there capable of what we've seen with Courtney Blakely? Not necessarily. Same with Savannah Wheeler. Those are elite ball handlers, and you're going to want someone like that if you're looking to take this team to that next level. I think the way the roster sits today, you would still be very competitive in Conference USA, but this team has aspirations past Conference USA. This team needs a good ball handler that can also score. That was the other downfall with the Courtney Blakely pickup this last year, was Courtney did average double digits this year, and she did a fine job at being a playmaker, high assist number, more than we saw with Savannah Wheeler, but you still need that scoring threat that can space the floor. A sub-average three-point shot from Blakely did kind of wreck the spacing on the floor, along with Enrique as well. A lot of eyes are on Boldereva down low, and then a lot of eyes are on Jalen Gregory on the perimeter. Kind of leaves, it makes it difficult to create your shot for those players. So if you want to bring back that spacing, you need that scoring presence of a point guard, and you need that center or forward in this situation that can also score. I think you solve that with this high school signing class with Pfeiffer and Balgus, but I think the scoring point guard position it would be Verhulst as of today, who can also ball handle, but you've got to find someone in that portal. So tons of names that I really like that I think fit both of those bills. Those are the two spots, point guard and a center. Unfortunately, the center is going to be one of the toughest things to get in the portal, both men's and women, but I think you go all out, find that center you like, get that. I don't know if you need them to replace all the production that Boldereva had this last year, but having someone that can get you a double-double on a nightly basis, have a big presence down low, I think is pivotal in this team getting back to the Conference USA Championship, not only there, but to win it and return to the NCAA tournament. So another exciting offseason for the Lady Raiders. I look forward to the news. I would say if you're not already, get over to gomiddle.com, follow that tab that we have there that's covering all things transfer portal for the Lady Raiders. We'll keep you up to date. Obviously, I have my tracker on for all the girls that I'm looking at. We'll keep you up to date where those players are landing right now. Everyone that I have on my board is still on the table. And as I said, there's still 3 weeks. So for the Lady Raiders, you could still see some names enter the portal. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to make some room on the roster for the ladies this upcoming season. So just something to keep tabs on moving forward through this wild offseason. The BRP is proudly partnered with Rivals Network affiliate GoMiddle.com. Subscribe for premium content for all the inside scoop on MTSU athletics, recruiting, or join our free forums to discuss today's episode and all things Blue Raiders. The BRP is also partnered with the College Huddle, a nationwide collaborative effort with over 80 Division I programs represented. Check out the website at thecollegehuddle.com to catch up on all college football content with daily articles and episodes provided by the largest college podcast community on the internet. But lastly, as we close up the episode, we'll do a little spring check-in here. Baseball, softball action is getting into the thick of it. Baseball, they dropped a series to FIU this weekend, winning just the first game on Friday, but losing the Saturday-Sunday matchup of it all. They moved to 2-4 in Conference USA, 15-14 overall. Tough one this weekend. I think this team has a lot of potential. They just kind of lack the consistency right now. Trace Trace is back. He pitched on Friday, but really the story of the win on Friday was Will Jenkins came in there in the sixth, pitched 3 2/3 of only one earned run baseball, held them quiet for those last three innings, and we were able to pull out that 12-8 win. But the rest of the week, just the scoring production wasn't there. The pitching wasn't necessarily very great. Chandler Alderman had his struggles early on Saturday. Drew Horn wasn't there on Sunday. I'm assuming some sort of injury. So something to keep eyes on as your Sunday starter. Drew has been excellent this year, leads the team in ERA. So you can only hope that he's okay and he can get back into that rotation, because this week you've got Liberty, a team that's 2-4, also very inconsistent. They have some big wins. They had a little tiff this last weekend at Jacksonville State where they had a doubleheader, lost it because they had a player that wasn't rostered. So this big thing over social media has come live about the roster shakeup for conference play. So I'm sure Liberty will have all those loose ends tied up. But this is a weekend that you can get right. You could potentially get yourself back over 500 in Conference USA play with a sweep in Lynchburg, because in my opinion, this is not a Liberty team we're used to. This is a team that is very beatable. Get the run production you're used to. If we can get some solid outings from our starters, not rely as heavily on our bullpen, which the bullpen's been good, but let's be honest, if the starting pitchers are not doing well, normally that kind of puts the team in behind the 8 ball. But outside of them, Brett Von Dolen hits his 12th home run this weekend, a guy that is top 3 in the nation in home runs. And he leads Conference USA by a pretty good size margin right now, but he's a special talent you need to see. Nate Brewer, a guy that we sponsored here at the Blue Raider podcast, had a great game on Friday night. Another young, talented bat that this team has. I think they're getting healthy throughout the lineup. Hopefully the run production will get there, as you've already faced Dallas Baptist, which we all know what happened there last weekend with a big loss, but they bounced back on Sunday with a win against a top 25 program. So the ability is there. You just got to find that consistency. If it's not pitching, it's hitting, and if it's not hitting, it's pitching, and it just seems to be this up and down ride for the Blue Raiders on the diamond. So hopefully they can find that consistency this week as they play Liberty, and avoid those big innings that just eat your lunch. And so look forward to baseball as they continue through. Obviously, we'll have a lot more baseball talk coming in the weeks as the season dwindles down and we get closer and closer to that conference tournament. But plenty of time left in the season. 2-4, like I said, they're in the bottom half of the standings, so we'll keep our tabs there. But softball, check in with the softball. Lady Raiders got a sweep of Kennesaw State in their last Conference USA series. That improves them to 6-6. They also are kind of in that middle pack. This team has improved. I know that the record may not show it. They're just under 500. This team is good, and I've listed all my reasons. If you listen to our preseason episode with Coach Bryce Brentz, the pitching staff is phenomenal. Tori Kaufman is their lead girl, but Layla Amon has really shined bright this year. 2 Conference USA Freshman of the Week honors out of the circle. She's top 10 in the conference in ERA and strikeouts. Really, really special talent. I encourage you to watch this girl pitch because she just has it about her. But she's a big part of the team's success. They have Tori Kaufman, like as I touched on, the Walter State transfer. She is great as well. She actually leads the team and wins. Big thing for her is those late innings. We kind of saw a collapse there when you go back to Louisiana Tech late for her, where they come back and walk her off as a part of that weekend sweep. When you talk about softball and their inconsistencies, it just comes from a big inning and a little bit of fielding. They're a couple fielding errors away from sweeping Louisiana Tech, really. I know the scores may not imply that with the Friday night loss 7-2 to the Texters, but it was a fielding error that really made that inning blow up. And same with the walk-off on Saturday as well. So if they're able to get some fielding, I think that's obviously easier said than done. The pitching is great. The run production is great. This team has lots of power numbers. I'll talk about Jana Want, who's a 2-time Conference USA Freshman of the Week honors as well. She's top 10 in batting average, OPS, doubles, RBIs, walks, on-base percentage. She's the real deal. I think, in my opinion, she's going to be Conference USA Freshman of the Year. I would be ecstatic if they can keep her past this year, because she's going to be a hot commodity for these P4 schools. She has a lot of talent. So hopefully they use that to their advantage this year. But she's great. The team in general, Ansley Blevins does what she does, hits a lot of home runs. Addie Edgman's been great in the leadoff spot. Macy Harder, another freshman that's been great in the top of the order. Anise Harvey has 2 walk-offs this year, kind of more in a pinch hitter role, but as a designated player, she's done her job getting runs in when it matters the most. And Ava Tepe, another player that has hit timely home runs for this team. So I think the talent is there for this team to also make some noise. I mean, they did beat top 25 Mississippi State earlier this year, but they will be tested this weekend against another top 25 team. They have a 3-game series with number 24 ranked Liberty. So it's a lot to ask for, but this team has the potential, obviously, to win those games because of the talent they have in the circle with Layla Amon and with Tori Kaufman. And I don't want to take anything away from Mary Martinez, but she's got the talent as well to give them that opportunity in their second game of their series. So all things considered, softball, I think, is in a good place. I do think this team will make the Conference USA tournament this year. If all things hold well, they stay healthy, the bats continue to roll, they can just limit those fielding errors. That team is going to be competitive against whoever they play. Obviously, like as I said, they're able to beat SEC teams on the road, so that is something. So I'm excited about that, excited about basketball and what is to come for these coming weeks. So obviously stick to the boards over there at gomiddle.com. I appreciate all those that subscribe and you're over there to get your inside scoop. Again, if you really like the inside scoop, I'm your guy with the Lady Raiders stuff. We got plenty of guys that have eyes on the basketball side of things that are also on the boards. Football, spring practice is going on. You got so much going on there. Good friends of the show, Shane Pickering, Connor Smith, doing a lot of good work on the recruiting side of things. So if you want anything and you have all these questions and you want them answered, you want to know what's going on in recruiting, transfer portal, gomiddle.com. That's the place you got to go to find all that stuff. We keep good tabs on it. We have a great team of guys that are always up to date on all this stuff. So I encourage you to go there. Obviously, I'm there once again on the Lady Raiders side of things, but stay tuned to the coming weeks. Obviously, we'll have plenty of stuff here on the Blue Raider podcast to keep you in the know of what's going on. But I appreciate everyone that's tuned in to this episode, listening to me talk for 40 minutes. I've hopefully answered all your questions, but if not, we'll take this conversation over to the boards after this episode is released, and let's carry it on over there. But thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you're not already, subscribe to us on our social media. That's TikTok, that's Instagram, that's Twitter, that's Facebook. And of course, if you're listening to us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me. And of course, to the like button, it does wonders for the algorithm. But once again, thanks to you for listening to today. Look forward to next week with Jeff Murphy of the Raiders Rising Chair. Lots of good stuff to talk about there. But thanks for tuning in once again. And until next time, go Blue.